will tell you this. I give you a perfect example of what drives me nuts, though, because this is how Washington works. The president asked last year for $518 billion for the base defense budget. $518 billion. That's what the Pentagon asked for. When it came through the budget committee, we took that to $523 billion. I asked a really stupid question at that budget committee meeting when they came out with the numbers. Why? And the answer I got, I am not making this up, was because it's more than 518. And I said, are you serious? He said, yes, if we acquiesce to the president's amount, then it will be perceived that he is as tough on defense as we are. Therefore, we have to be perceived as spending more than he does so that we maintain our position as being tougher on defense than he does. And I got news for you. I can do better on spending your money than that. That's not right. When you do that just to make political points, I think that's the type of thing. And then you need to hear that. You folks need to hear that's how we spend your money. I got time for one or two more. Folks who haven't asked one. Yes, ma'am, in the back. You've been very patient all night. I apologize for overlooking you before.
No, this is the first time I had a question. I would like to offer a different perspective about budgets. As opposed to asking for more than what you got last year.
Right.
I really think that we should look at it as you ask for 500,000, whatever this year. Next year you ask for 475, and if you meet and you're under your budget, we'll give you a bonus, and then you can use that however you want to in discretionary spending for your agency. I mean, it really just boggles my mind how we're not productivity oriented in our budget spending. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you've got to do more with less.
And it doesn't to me, and this is going to make even less sense to you because that's exactly what you would do in the private sector. That's how you do it. That's how I used to do it. Look, the budget that we do it now in my office, which is the budget for paper this year is $1,700, okay? And if you kids who use all the paper, we got 23, 24-year-old kids in the office in Washington, D.C., I'll let you take half of everything you spend and spend it on something else. Okay? It makes perfect sense, and I want you to know, every year we've been under budget in my office because of things like that. Here's the difficulty that you face when you do it at a federal agency level. And I don't know how to fix it. I'm being perfectly candid with you because that's what I came to Washington with, and I'm trying to get to that, but here's the impediment that you face. Let's say you do that with defense. I'd say, okay, defense, we gave you $518 billion last year, that's your budget. If you only anything below 515, you get to keep and do with as you see fit. Do you really want them cutting their own budgets, or do you want them actually doing what you told them to do with the money? Welfare. Do you want them not giving out the checks to people because they want to spend it another way? I'm struggling with a way to take that private sector model, which we all know works, and put it into a government. The providing of government public services. I want to do it, I'm trying to figure out a way to get it, I just haven't figured out a way to do it yet. Because as soon as you do it, there's the risk that the person who was supposed to get their Social Security check doesn't get it because someone in the administrative office wanted to take half the money and go spend it someplace else.
Well, I mean, I look at it from the perspective as a small business owner and say, you know, if I have 5 employees and we're getting the same job done, and we really only need 4, you let one go. I mean, it goes back to labor. It goes back to labor, compensation, and your benefits. Those are the biggest expenses that you have. And I mean, that's what they need to look at, is do we really need 20 people in this department to do a job that only really, we only need 10
listen,
people to do?
I'm the primary sponsor. I wrote the piece of legislation on the government attrition bill, which is to shrink the size of government by 10%, not with firing anybody, because I can't get political support for that, by simply not hiring when they leave. And I'm struggling to get even some support for that within my party. But there's great opportunities for us to do some of the things. When Mr. Bedingfield was in the private sector, he worked for a company that if you came up with a manufacturing process that saved the company money, you could win a contest and win a bunch of money doing that. There's certain ways to do it, the way we do it in my office. Again, we're providing public service in my office. So there's ways to do it. I want you to know you're not the only one who's thinking about it. We're trying to figure out a way to get there. We're leading by example in our own offices. We gave back $110,000 last year in our office. So we are trying. This will be the last question. No, actually, that gentleman in the back has not asked one, and then we'll finish with Mr. Maddox. And then if you didn't get a chance to ask your second question, I do ask you to give us a call, send us an email. We do respond. Yes, the first answer may be a form answer on gun control, but if you really want to have the debate, we do it with folks all the time. We've got folks in Washington who do nothing better. So, gentleman in the orange, then we'll finish with the unestimable Mr. Maddox in the wrong.
I wasn't going to ask this question.
Because I got a 2-hour drive home, so go ahead.
I wasn't going to ask this, talk about this tonight, but you did just mention defense spending. And so I recently read Scouse's World Affairs brief. But he gives an update every Friday. He's talking about the increasingly buildup in Russian and China missiles. He's talking about the Syria and Iran being a divergent version as to what globalists want to happen. And he's talking about America becoming world, seen as the world bully, and he's talking about a World War III coming up in the future where, within about a decade, where America takes a nuclear hit, and where we won't even respond to it. My question is, I hope that you will dig into what I'm talking about and sort of look into this, because I don't think a lot of people even are reading this kind of thing at all.
I worry a great deal about Russia. I worry about China a lot more for a bunch of different reasons. I'm actually reading a biography now of Chairman Mao, who was the official position of his government for a long time that they were not seeking to deter nuclear war because they thought they could win it, and it would bring about the socialist revolution worldwide if they engaged in nuclear war with the United States. Why do I say that? Because, I mean, this was a dictator. He still has a presence in the culture. I worry about China breaking up. There is stability there now, social stability, but it is essentially, it is purchased and enforced at the end of a gun. It is not, people say, I got a question the other day on the radio, so, we should be more like China. And I said, really? He goes, oh yeah, no, they take good care of their workers and they got economic growth and everybody's got a job. And I asked the guy, so what religion are you? And he said, he's Roman Catholic. I said, well, you're not China anymore. I mean, you don't get the type of stability that you get in a dictatorship, without costs associated. So I worry about China. I do worry about Russia just because I think they have that culture as well, that same type of militaristic, offensive mentality. So I worry about that. Yeah, listen, there's plenty of things to worry about. There's no question, which is why it comes back to the military spending. The one thing that Lindsay and I talk about a lot, the sequester, is that it really does hollow out the military. You'll drive by Shaw and it'll still look the same, but our capabilities will be dramatically reduced. France, by the way, is going through that right now. They have some of the best technology in the world. Their helicopters, their fighter jets, some of the most cutting edge stuff. They don't have the ability to get it 4 hours away to Mali to do it. They don't have the refueling ability to get down there. They don't have the guts of a military. They have all the shiny bells and whistles, but they don't have the ability to actually perform a mission. And that, again, I hope that America looks to Greece and sees examples of what our future holds. I'm hoping they're looking now at France as examples of what our future holds. I don't know if they're doing that and not watching Dancing with the Stars, to the original question at the end. But again, it's my job to make sure that, to the best of my ability, I make sure they are paying attention. Mr. Maddox, take us home, sir. What do you got? You've been very quiet all week or all night.
Always gonna go after Bedford night.
Did you wear shoes tonight?
Yeah, I got them all.
I don't know.
It's cold out there, Bo.
Maybe I play golf, and I didn't wear any shoes up there. Bedford night, you buy $40 billion on mortgage-backed securities.
Yep.
We're watching the devaluation of the currency, which means that everybody in here that's living on fixed income is slowly losing their purchasing power. We're looking at Congress just continuing to spend money. Where's the end at? Where does the dollar, where does everybody say all of a
Yeah.
As soon as that happens, our debt payment's gonna skyrocket to unbelievable proportions, which we cannot put enough money to do. We're looking at Weimar if we try. It's not gonna be long. You guys aren't gonna do diddly squat up there to even rein in Fed, which is a banking cartel that we should have never been in the first place. Why we're paying interest to a banking cartel, paying money, printing money out of nothing.
And then giving it to banks and letting them lend it back to us for interest. Yeah.
Revolving door, and who gets the hell with the bag when the music stops? It's every person in this room.
Listen, folks,
And that's
I wish.
the failure of this country, and it's not going to be in 10 years. As soon as they stop dealing in petrodollars, we're done. And it's coming.
I let Jeff go last, just because he and I had this conversation, and I want everybody to know in this room that he's absolutely right. In fact, the greatest threat to everybody in here with gray hair is what he just laid out. And the folks who are paying the price right now for what we're doing as a nation are you folks. I know you said you do it on the backs of and I thought maybe that's where you were going to go, and I should have taken it there, but I forgot. We are doing it on the backs of the senior citizens right now, because we're denying you the ability to get any savings at all, any interest on your savings. And we're starting to build real inflation in. I recognize the fact that the inflation that Fed looks at says it's very low, 1.9, 1.8%. But you all know it's more than that. You folks are the ones paying the price right now. I can go out and earn more money. My children can go out and earn more money. You're beyond that point. And you are the ones who are bearing the burden right now for our monetary policy. Jeff is absolutely right. I'll take an opportunity here to plug an organization called 60 Plus. It is the conservative alternative to AARP. I encourage you to go and take a look at it. They're the only leading organization on Washington, on Capitol Hill, talking about that issue and its specific impact on retired Americans. Because you are the ones who are paying the price.
It's not just them, it's your children.
It is, but they're paying it right now. My children, because when you have inflation, which you got, and believe me, it's terrible. Hyperinflation brings down nations and brings war, there's no question. But there is a certain ability for, when you get price inflation, you also get wage inflation. It won't keep up as much, but folks who are on the fixed incomes are the ones who are going to get it.
First user of the money gets the benefit. At the very end, the guy at McDonald's.
That's right.
Flip the burgers again.
And the folks who are on retirement are the ones who get punished. You asked me a question, which is where does it end? I think the short answer is that all the research that I've done, and this includes budget committee hearings, is that you've got between 3 years and 5 years before the entitlement bust comes, okay? And the credit markets finally figure out that we don't have a way to pay any of this money back. I've said it before, I'll say it again. One of the few things that I've made up on my own since I've been in Washington is this, and if it's one of the things that people walk out of here remembering, if I take money from you and I intend to give it back, that is debt. If I take money from you and I never intend to give it back, that is theft. Okay, and that is what we are doing, because no one is offering. Now we say Paul Ryan's going to do it this year, we'll see. Is offering a plan where we actually balance the budget and start paying down the debt. Okay? But to your larger point of how long it's going to take, 3 to 5 years, unless you get dramatic change before the credit markets finally wake up and say, hey, they might pay us back, but they're going to pay us back with paper. And that, by the way, when you hear the conversations in the future, and you will, every time we bump up against the debt ceiling, you're going to people say, well, we can't default. Inflation is default. If you lend me 90 cents, and I promise to give you back $1, implied in that contract is the concept that the dollar that I give you is worth 100 cents. If I give you back $1 that's worth 25 cents, then I have defaulted in the very real sense of the word. Inflation is default by another name. And I think you have 3 to 5 years before that raises its head. That is not a very long time. That is a very short period of time. In the meantime,
perfect scenario with low interest rates.
Yeah, and what that ignores is the potential of outside shocks to the system. Chinese social unrest, a European breakup of the euro, more difficulties in the Mideast. I mean, we're so much more exposed to those exogenous outside shocks to the system than we are when we have a solid monetary policy. It's hard to say. What's the good news? Is there any good news? Good news is that you now know somebody who was on the subcommittee for monetary policy and trade, replacing Ron Paul on that committee, by the way. So I'll get a chance to be directly involved in that. And I think one of the things we're going to push, and I think it may be, and this is one of the places where Jeff and I disagree, I do not believe that Ben Bernanke is the devil. I believe that Ben Bernanke is simply doing what he's told. He's administering the laws faithfully, and that the problem, perhaps not surprisingly, is Congress, not the Fed. We have given the Federal Reserve a dual mandate, not only to preserve price inflation, manage price inflation, but to pursue full employment. And that is essentially what's given them the right to do what they've been done.
That good job
They-
in 100 years.
That's it, and
And so you're not gonna do any good changing from that mandate, giving them the same damn tools. They are stealing us, robbing us blind. They've robbed us blind for 100 damn years, and they're just about done.
But as you know,
And a central bank print fiat currency, it is by a banking cartel, is traders. That's traders.
here's why I think that getting rid of the dual mandate does help. Do I think it solves a problem? No. I mean, it's sort of, in fact, I just had a meeting on the gold standard, which I'm reading up, and I don't even know if that solves the problem. But anyway, why do I think getting off the dual mandate, going to the single mandate helps? You're already seeing dissent amongst the federal, the Board of Governors. I can't remember, there was 5 of them who have come out of opposition saying it's time to start tightening up on the policies and so forth. I think that if you got rid of the dual mandate, it may take that to a majority to the point where the Fed actually has to start changing its policies.
Central control never works. It never works in government, it never works in banking. If you give them a damn monopoly, you're gonna do what they're doing to us right now, they're gonna rob us blind.
And here-
You got to end the Fed.
And we're not going to end the Fed here tonight, but I'll simply tell you that one of the alternatives is for Congress to take over that responsibility, which it did for the first 100 years of our existence. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have any more faith in us than I do in the Federal Reserve. So,
Taxes, because they force us to tell them how much money we make. It's none of their business. I mean, they're not required to tell them anything. Why don't you tell the people that?
that I don't agree with.
Why not?
Well, because I think the income tax is constitutional. I happen to think it's abused and it's wrong.
It's constitutional, and the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment gave Congress no new taxes.
Because there's actually an amendment that says it's legal to tax income. I mean, that's what it says.
Supreme Court.
And that's just the plain English portion of it.
In
So-
1916, the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment gave Congress no new taxing authority. They couldn't tax it before 1913, they couldn't tax it after.
Then why do we still have an income tax?
Because the people have been conned into believing that they have to pay something that's not even mandatory, it's voluntary performance.
Listen, I've heard that before, actually, and I'll finish with this. I had a great story. I took tax, and I used to be a lawyer. I won't tell very many people that, because everybody hates lawyers. But I remember taking income tax in law school, and the professor walked in at the end of the exam and said, okay, I have a bonus question. And anybody who gets this bonus question right automatically gets an A on the exam. I'm like, wow, that gets your attention in law school. You just took a 4-hour blue book exam. Your hand can't move. You write so much. And he goes, I would like you to please cite for me the section of the code that says you have to pay the tax. And he walked out. So it was just a fun little anecdote. Listen, I'm going to wrap up there because I do have a 2-hour ride home. I appreciate y'all coming. It's a great turnout, by the way. Please do a couple of things. If you thought this was helpful, tell somebody about it. I'd love to have twice this many people next time. I think as you've learned tonight, my presentation is really just an excuse for me to be here. The questions are really the interesting thing. And if you get more people in here, you're going to get some really good questions. We got some really good questions tonight. And I hope we get more people in. This is something that a lobbyist pays $10,000 to do this. This is the chance to sit and just talk to your representative in Congress is great. I wish I had had it. I think I've done more town hall meetings in the last 24 hours than Mr. Spratt did in Sumter, or as many in 28 years. But so it's easier for me to do it when folks show up. I mean, when I get 4 people to show up, it's hard to get my staff fired up by, let's go back to Chesley and do a meeting for 4 people. Go to the website, mulvaney.house.gov. If you use Facebook, if you use Twitter, go to those things, but sign up for our town hall meeting. Sign up for an email. We do not flood you with emails. It's typically one every 2 weeks or one every 3 weeks. And usually what it is look, here's what we did in Congress in the last couple of weeks. We put all the stuff that you might go looking for anyway in one place where you can go get it. Now, it's stuff where I look really pretty on television, which is rare. But it's good stuff to get. It's a great way to stay involved. Do reach out to the office. Do stay involved. Bring a friend next time. Because I love doing these things. It's a lot of fun. I will talk about Agenda 21 next time. There's actually something on the website about that. Thank you all very much. I've had my 2 bottles of water.